Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for August 12th through August 16th, 2024, and I'm working with some older supplies from Studio Calico. This is the final week or spread of my vacation, and for this spread, we were in Istanbul. Let's go ahead and dive right in. This is my spread for while I was in Istanbul. So this spread covers August 12th through 16th. And so I have the back of my previous spread. I have this one ready for my first week back in the US and back at home. And I was going through my photos on the computer because that was kind of my starting point. I realized I really needed an insert. Even though I was only there for 3 full days, there's just so many photos. So I only had 2 4x6 spots. So I ended up printing this cat photo and this photo is 4x6, which actually neither of those are like big landmarks, but they were just photos that I wanted horizontally. And then let's see, I need to keep in mind I have the back of this one. And then let's see here, I have this photo that says Istanbul. So I'm going to use that as my title card. And then I'm just gonna kind of lay these out and get an idea for how many additional cards I need. Okay. So I tried to lay them out and I tried to kind of group them together in similar things. So these were both at the Blue Mosque. Let's see here. These were at the Galata Tower. I realize here I'm missing some photos of certain things. So I didn't print any photos of a few of the locations. And I'm trying to decide if I want to go back and print more photos. Okay, so I went over to my computer and I printed a couple more photos because I realized I had a couple of big sites, 2 mosques specifically, that I didn't print photos of. And I think for a travel spread especially, it's kind of hard to narrow down photos for a Project Life spread. So for me, I try not to overthink it too much, which is kind of why I ended up with like this, and I wanted to kind of fix that issue. But I really just kind of go through my photos and try to pick my favorite ones. So I ended up with some sites having multiple photos, some having none. Trying to decide kind of where I want to put things. I have probably more filler cards than I need here, but that's okay. I have a lot to say. So what I decided to do is use an older Studio Calico kit. So I don't have another like travel collection or anything. So I pulled out this older Studio Calico kit and I'm just trying to pull it over here. And I've used this already, so I just have bits and pieces of it and I don't know when it's from or what kit it is. I have these numbers that I haven't used, so I'm thinking this might be good to kind of identify some of the sites and then journal about them. So I'm thinking I'm going to use those. I don't need a 4x6 card, which is fine because that one doesn't really work. I have a couple labels and alphas. These chipboard pieces are more like, so this is kind of like a travel kit, but it's more beachy. But I do think these like little leaves work, so I might use these at the top of some like white cardstock for journaling. So I'm thinking something along those lines. Then let's see what we have in here. Okay, so I don't want these ones. This is kind of a beachy vibe, but I kind of like the blues and the tans and the greens from the kit for this spread. I think I want to pull over some white cardstock and do my numbered list. So I'm actually going to work on that. Grab this sticky note here. And so I have numbers 1 through 9 if I want to do them twice. And I'm going to pull over my Hobonichi cousin because I kept notes in here while I was traveling. So I'm just going to put this off screen. And I'm going to look at that to kind of list the 9 or so things I want to identify. So I definitely have the blue mosque, which is right here. And then I have, let's see, I don't have a picture of that. So I'm just kind of going through a list of everything I saw. The Hippodrome of Constantinople was the next thing I saw, which I didn't print a picture, which is fine. Wasn't a big deal. Hagia Sophia, which is this one. That was one of the ones I forgot to print. And one of the biggest sites there. I just didn't get as good of photos of it. It's just so old. The Grand Bazaar, which is that. I only printed one photo for this from there. And then let's see, the Basilica Cistern, which are these two. And then I'm not gonna do food as part of this. So let's see here. Then we have the next day. We've got the I don't know how to say that, but this mosque, which is this one. And then we have Balat Street, which I didn't print a photo of actual Balat Street, but I did print this one, which is from that area. And then let's see, then we have Galata Tower, which are these two. And then we have Kilal Street, which are these two. And then, let's see, there were a few other things there that I don't have photoed, and there's some smaller sites. Oh, this is also Balat Street. Okay, so let me see here. We also have then the Ortaköy Mosque, which is this one. So that gives me my 9 sites. And there were a few other things we saw, but these are the big ones that I think I have photoed here and that I want to document on these numbered cards. So I think what I'm gonna do is make 2 white cards on these, and I'm going to number those with those numbers and put numbers on these cards to do journaling about those sites. So let me grab some white cardstock. Okay, so the question here is, do I want these to be in the order of which I saw them? And then do I want to make them match that on the spread? And I kind of feel like I should. So we're going to redo this. So we have the Blue Mosque, which are these 2 photos, which is going to be number 1. And let's make my first of these journal cards will go here. So that's 1. Hagia Sophia is 2. So that can go right there. 3 is the Grand Bazaar. So that's there. And then we've got the Basilica Cistern is 4, so that's these 2. And then the Suleiman Mosque is 5, which is this one. And then I can put this food because that's 5 to go on there. Although honestly, I probably should do 4 on that card. So I'm gonna move this mosque. Hope that me talking through this process makes sense and isn't annoying. But here, so now we have the Suleiman Mosque to start this page, and then Balat Street, which are these 2. But I do need them to be over here, so I'm gonna end up putting them later, even though we went to the tower first, which is right here. These 2 are the tower. And then these two are Istiqlal Street. And then this is the Ortaköy Mosque. So, and then we have a couple of food ones that are not. Okay, I'm gonna put this one here that goes with that. And then these two like this. No, this, they go together. Put these here. So there was a card here about food on the menu. So that card can be about these two food things. So this is my journaling card about the first 4. I'm just gonna put a line here. And then the last 5 will be on this card with 2 of these leaves here. Okay, so then what else do I need to do? I think I wanna do some additional, so I have a couple spots over here. I'm gonna put a few filler cards. I think I just kind of want to do like that, and I'll do like a chipboard on it. And I really liked this one for just like an overview journaling. And then I have this morning and evening one that I could put some like reflections about how we started and ended our days. I really liked this card too, just to be like a simple filler. And then this one could be like the best memories. So maybe like that. Okay, so I like to do this where I can fill all of the pockets first. It gives me a good starting point. Okay, so I really want some sort of like title on these. So I'm gonna dig in my stash. I'm probably gonna work on these cards first and put the numbers on. Put my title dates on there. Because this one has an insert, I'll likely start putting things in the pocket as I go. And I will work on my journaling as I go as well and get this one put together. So at this point, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on fast forward so I can start working on this one.
So this spread ends up being pretty simple. It's really focusing on the photos and the story. So I'm starting with these 2 journaling cards, which are kind of the main overview of our vacation and highlights most of the photos. So I found these strips in my stash from Allie Edwards. They were from an older story kit. And these are the like tear apart word phrase strips. And while I really think these are super cute, I prefer the stickers because these are so hard to store, because once you start tearing them apart, it's hard to, like look through it the same as words on a pad. So I don't use them that often, but I wanted the brown or like craft color. I just felt like it went really well with this spread with the colors of the kit in my photos. And I didn't have any word phrase strip sticker pads that were this color that weren't super themed, that wouldn't work. So I decided to dig in my stash of these word phrase like tear apart sheets and found these ones and was able to pull out 2 that worked well as titles to put onto these cards with these leaves. I realized after I did the first card that these leaves actually had plastic on them. I tried to pull it off the first time and I couldn't find it. So that's why the first ones got glued down, and I'm ripping them back up to take that like transparent backer off of them. And then I have 2 leaves adhered with a word phrase strip, and then I'm just trimming off the edges. I apologize for some of the things being off screen when I'm trimming. Sometimes I need it to be closer to my face so I can see what I'm doing, and it does go out of frame a little, but I try to cut those pieces out of the video as much as possible. So now I'm going to work on my numbers. So I'm pulling out the numbers from the kit, and there's these they're like chipboard numbers, and it has 1 through 0 twice. So I have 2 of each number to pull from. And basically what I'm doing is just picking the one that the color matches my photo best, and then I'm stamping the numbers to go along with it with a dot after the number. And I'm just going to do, on each of the sites. So I have 4 that end up on this first card and 5 that end up on the second card. The first 4 are on the left-hand side of the spread, and the last 5 are on the right-hand side of the spread, so that each of these cards can kind of highlight the main tourist sites in Istanbul that we visited. There are so many sites to see in Istanbul. If you've ever been there or ever looked into visiting there, you could tell that, there's just so much to see. So we didn't make it to all of the top sites, and there are some that we did make it to that didn't end up highlighted in this, either because, we just walked by and didn't do the tour, or I didn't get, great photos or think it was that neat, because I really wanted to narrow this down to just 9, partially because I only had 9 numbers. I mean, I guess I could have done a 10 as well with the set that I had, but also, I just didn't want to overwhelm the spread. Like I've said in some of these previous travel project life spreads from this vacation, I do plan to do an album that is about this vacation that will be more in-depth overview of each city and everything that we saw, and will include all of my favorite photos. So I'm not as concerned with the project life spread to include every single thing. Okay, so I decided to add the title of each of the tourist sites in highlighted. So I'm using my mild liner and I'm using my gray one here. And looking back on this, I don't know why I didn't use the tan one to go with the brown of the spread, but gray tends to be my default highlighter or mild liner to use. I just love it so much. So I'm just using it with my ruler to create a base for my title for each of these 9 numbers. And I definitely could have written it first and then highlighted, but because mild liners tend to smear sometimes when you do that, I decided to do the highlighter first. Also because I'm used to writing in notebooks with Tomo River paper, and you have to do the highlighter first in those situations. So I am used to doing it this way, but you definitely could write it first and then wait for it to dry before highlighting. I think I was able to kind of estimate the right length for each of these in most of the cases. You can see here I had to add a little bit more, but that's okay. It ends up working out. And then after each of these titles, which are the names of the sites that correspond with the numbers on the photos, I wrote a little bit about each site. Sometimes it was like a little bit of historical facts about what it was. Sometimes it was just, my opinion on it, or just like a brief overview of what we did. So the number 1 was the Blue Mosque, which is one of the top sites to see in Istanbul. And it's that top photo that has the number 1 on it, and the one that has a sticky note is a photo of us in front of it. And I think it's super beautiful, and we were super lucky that we planned out to get there first thing in the morning, so it wasn't super crowded. The sites here get super crowded later in the day, as with all of these cities that we went to visit. So we are morning people, and getting there early really makes a huge difference to get nice photos. But I also did touch up these photos in Photoshop, and I was able to really make some of them shine by using Photoshop. So that's partially why my photos are pretty good, hopefully. So anyways, moving on to 2, that's the Hagia Sophia, which is another old mosque that's right across from the Blue Mosque, but it's so old. So it just looks very different on the inside. I had forgotten to print a photo at first because it's just not as stunning as the more modern mosques, but it is still very beautiful. So I did want to print it. And then for 3, that was the Grand Bazaar, which is just this like huge marketplace that people visit. I had seen a lot of photos on Instagram from the Grand Bazaar, so I was super excited to take photos of the lamp stores, and super disappointed that they all had little signs that said no photos. So I did take one real quick when I was walking by of a couple of them. They didn't end up as beautiful as the ones that people had on Instagram. I don't know how they got away with that, because they were like posing in front of them. They must have paid them or something. I don't know. But I was pretty disappointed in that. And then number 4 is this underground chamber. It's called the Basilica Cistern. And I'd never even heard of a cistern before, but it's kind of like a reservoir. So it's like to store water, rainwater, to turn it into drinking water underground. And it was from like a 400 AD. So Istanbul is an extremely old city, and it was actually part of the Roman Empire way back prior to the year 1000. So it's been around. So a lot of these sites were built by the Romans prior to it being Istanbul. I think at that time it was Constantinople. And the Basilica Cistern was one of those sites. So you could go down underground and see, where the water was stored. They did drain it mostly so that you could walk through it, but there was a little bit of water in the bottom, and they had put like lights up and stuff, and it was really pretty and neat to see. The photos really don't do it justice. It will be really fun when I work through my travel and document series of Istanbul. You'll be able to see a bit more of some of these sites. So then moving on to the other card here, number 5 is, and I'm going to butcher this, but it looks like the Suleiman Mosque, which is another mosque that is really, really beautiful. Honestly, I kind of liked it better than the Blue Mosque, and it was slightly up a hill, so you had to walk up a hill that was pretty steep to get there. So one of my favorite things about it was just less crowded than the Blue Mosque and the Hagia Sophia, which are kind of like in the main tourist area. It wasn't too far, but definitely worth a visit. And the grounds of it were much prettier because it just had like a lot of different like buildings and things that surrounded it, and like a gated area, and you could see views of the city because you were at the top of the hill, and it was just very pretty. So that's number 5. Number 6 is the Galata Tower. So there's 2 photos there of the Galata Tower, and that one's super pretty, and that's one that I cleaned up on Photoshop. So that's why the street is so empty and beautiful in front of the tower. And then number 7 is Balat Street, which is that photo with the umbrellas and the rainbow stairs. And there's also some colorful houses. I didn't print that one here because, again, it just didn't come out as good. The Balat Street is another one of those Instagram spots. And it's really true that what you see on Instagram is not that real. So then number 8 is Istiklal Street, which is that colorful church and the cable car. And then number 9 is the Ortaköy Mosque, which is that mosque on the water. So I did all of that. So now I'm moving on. I pulled out some chipboard pieces, and I just wanted to, add a little bit of something. So I picked that green one to put on that green card, which says, "These details make my heart sing." So it wasn't really a travel related one, but just a random chipboard piece. And I'm just kind of jumping around on my spread as I go. On this card here, I'm just writing out Istanbul. The title card that I chose is a photo of like an Istanbul sign, which they had those throughout the city. And I took photos of quite a few of them as we walked by. And this was the one that I liked the most, but it didn't pop that much. And on all of these travel spreads, I have added the word of the city somewhere on the spread. And so I wanted to do the same here, even though it's kind of on that title card, but I wanted to add it again. And then I'm working on my journaling about the food. I have 2 food photos here, and I had a ton more, so I really had to narrow it down for this spread, but that's okay. I will definitely document way more about that in my mini album that's about this spot. So my mini album, I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but I'll talk about it a little bit here too. I'm going to do a 10x8 album that is going to document all 5 cities that I visited on this vacation, Istanbul being the 5th one. And I'm going to probably follow a formula for each city so that I can get the cities in there. I do still have to narrow down the photos to fit in there because I do want to fit all 5 cities into that one album, but I will be able to put a little more detail than I have in here. And I will probably do some typed journaling for it, and I will pull some things from my journal when I do that to kind of add a little bit more details to the story. I'm just going ahead and slipping cards into the pockets as I go because I want to get them out of my way. When I was working on this card, I decided it looked a little bit bland, so I pulled this Coffee Monster Co. washi tape, which is like a travel washi. It's a nice muted color. It's like a picture of a globe or like a map I don't know why I said globe because it's not round, but a map, and there's little like emojis on the map, and it's cut like silver foil. It's super pretty. I don't use my Coffee Monster Co. or like character washi that often in my project life, but I do like it. So I want to try to find ways to make them fit a bit more, especially as I use them more and more in my journals and collect more of them. I just want to have more options to use them. Now I'm working on slipping things into this side, and I don't think I didn't talk about it when I was putting it together, but that chipboard piece, the circle chipboard piece there, is layered on top of a vellum circle from my stash just to have it pop a little bit because it's the green on the green. Now I'm going to work on this journal card. So I decided to make this journal card just an overview of our stop in Istanbul, just like the general, like what we did, what dates we were there, my overall opinion, and the fact that we actually got sick on the last day, which is somewhat expected when you go to a place like Istanbul, unfortunately, but just like a general overview. I pulled over some white word phrase strips from my stash to add one on as a title. I felt like this card was kind of begging to have a title added on there. And I really liked that this had like that brown color, which I've brought in other places on this spread as well. Then I added another word phrase strip along the bottom and called that one good. Now I'm going to work on this one. I decided that this one, so this says the best memories, is going to be like a highlights card. So I'm adding word alphas again. These are the Kelly Perky alphas. They're the same ones I used to write Istanbul. Whenever I do something on my spread, like with alphas or stickers or something from my stash, I like to kind of keep those in my like recipe for my spread and pull them again so that I have that repetition across the spread and they tie together. So I'm writing the word highlights and I'm just putting it on the edge of the sticker sheet first so that I can center it. And then I'm going to make 3 bullet points of my favorite highlights from this trip. However, at this point in time, it was getting late. The spread was taking me a little longer than I was expecting it to, and I had to stop to go make dinner, and I ended up finishing the spread the following morning, and I wasn't able to film that last bit, but it's just the journaling on this highlights card, the journaling on both that morning and evening card where I just added a stamp that says routine and then kind of just journaled generally about our mornings while we were traveling and our evenings while we were traveling, specifically Istanbul, but overall this whole trip, just because it was kind of like a recap at the end. And then I added a Avery index tab to this insert with some stamping on it that says adventure and memories. I like to add those Avery index tabs when I have an insert just to draw your eye to the fact that there's a separate page to turn there. Now that is going to wrap up the video portion, but here you can see those final touches that I added on the left side, and here's that right side of the spread. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.